All right, all right, all right. Yes, yes, yes. I know we have been off and on these past couple months. My bad. But we are back for another open court discussion live in the Counselor's Corner. I am your host, David Lorenzo Glover, aka the Controversial Counselor. Joining me is the Big Bad Wolf, Herb Lewis.
Ow!
Okay, okay. I ain't heard that growl. Y'all been hearing it like every couple weeks lately, but hopefully we'll get back in routine. Panel, you know what to do. If you want a piece of this discussion, then join us. Hit us up. Come through. Recap from our last discussion, Monday, June 17th. We discussed the topic, why don't we embrace honesty in relationships? So if you're interested in listening to that discussion, check out the replays. We play on the YouTube channel, The Controversial Counselor, or check out some of the reels from the broadcast on Facebook, IG, TikTok, and YouTube. Okay, now it's time to get down to July 1st, Monday, July 1st business. The topic will be the shadow in the corner, child predators. And that's basically when you think of a shadow in the corner, somebody lurking, somebody lurking. So, um, child predators are individuals who exploit, manipulate, and harm children, often using deceitful and coercive tactics to satisfy their own twisted desires. These perpetrators can come from various backgrounds and may hold positions of trust, making it essential for parents, caregivers, and community to be aware of their tactics and take proactive steps to protect children. During this broadcast, we would discuss sextortion, online tips for children, and some characteristics of predators. Please like and share our video, and please tell a friend to tell a friend to subscribe to the YouTube channel, The Controversial Counselor. I think we were sitting at about 869 subs. Let's go. Help me so I can continue to help you by bringing these courageous adult conversations your way. So here we are tonight. I know, like I said, it's been kind of off and on, all these different things going on from cruise to family events. But, I always said since COVID that any potential family event or things going on, I'm going to try to be a part of it because life is short and
Yeah.
things is happening on a regular basis that that's why some people don't even tune in on social media because they say every time they tune in you see an RIP and things of that nature. And I just want to it's all about making memories now, positive memories. So that's where I'm at. The last thing we had was my aunt. She was celebrating her 65th birthday, which it may not seem like a lot, but when you think about it, like, okay, 65, like I made it to 65. And so we celebrated that. And, that's what it's about, man, for real. Like, all bullshit aside, like, just to celebrate, have a good time with each other. And people who don't want to be a part of that and they want to be toxic and stuff like that, just let them go by the wayside. So, um, feeling good. Got out there and I haven't walked in a while. Walked today and was actually no pain. I mean, I had my back, of course, was tight and a little stiff, but it felt good. So it wasn't one of those walks that I like, oh shit, I need to I need to call an Uber to make it back because I can't do this. But it
Yeah.
felt good. So I know I'm in training for this new school that I'm going into because it's huge and it's going to be a lot of terrain to cover, and I got to be in shape. I got to be right there. I don't want to be that out of shape cop in the school who can't get to this place or get to there because shit, I can't move. So that's it. So that's what's going on this end, and I'll let y'all know as we go on further with the conversation. What's good with you, Big Bad Wolf?
Well, let me ask you a question. So you guys have already been in the new property then?
Yeah, we had a couple professional developments in there. Yeah, and they're still not
Cool. Yeah.
100% complete.
I'll just say cool because that's I would liken that to moving into a new home. There's always that excitement. You know, uh, of being the quote unquote the first to do something or to be in there so you can put your imprint on the building, if you will, and certainly an imprint on the incoming kids because everybody's kind of starting off from ground zero. So that's always cool. And I'm gonna follow up with what you were saying about um spending time with family. I disclosed to you the meeting I had with front desk manager and the hotel GM. And one of the things I was talking to him about is when I was a kid, I grew up literally, well, a few blocks from here, depending on what age range I'm looking at. And I told him, I said, when I grew up on my block, there was only one black man who was legitimately a father in our neighborhood. Just one. And he treated us all like family. We went there, we hung out, shout out to the Handleys. Um, and when he died, there were no more black male leaders in our neighborhood. That was, roughly about 40 years ago. And now I take a look around and we are the black male elders. And it's funny how you age and me and my right hand man's boys, we never really sat down and thought about what it would be like to be this age because simply put, we didn't see a lot of black men get to this age. You just didn't. So now that we're here, it's a partial obligation and a huge responsibility, to reach back and try and help people pull forward, at least those who want to move forward, to say, hey, look, this is the way forward. There are going to be some people you lose along the way. And not that you're going to lose. BGS, what's up, man? I have been checking out your content, man. You've been on fire lately, man. So, you look around, you say, hey, that's not the way forward, man. This is the way forward. And along the way, you're going to lose some people. You're not going to lose them because of death. You're going to lose them because you mature. And the path that you take is different than what they want to take. We have to realize that's okay. Because we're told often, you shouldn't do that. You're going to need this. You're going to need that. You're going to wish this. And you get to a point where you realize half of the stuff that you were told as a kid was a lie. So then it kind of taints you, especially as a man. It taints you if you don't know what to believe. So you're kind of lost in this whirlwind of who do I believe? What do I do? And you're lucky if you make it out. You always posting your crew. And I'm like, look, at a certain point in time, a black man that gets beyond the age of 45, he has reasonably good health. If he has kids and they're doing well, those are the things we need to surround ourselves with. Because once you start to get up into the late 50s and early 60s, a lot of stuff becomes few and far between. So you start looking back and you say, hey, look, man, I got family. I got a job. I got my health. I'm doing okay. And given the straits of what the world is going through, especially economically, you say, hey, look, I don't know how much longer this ship is going to be, going to be sitting on top of the water before it starts to take on water. So you just say, hey, look, let's, as the proverbial adage goes, let's ride this thing until the wheels fall off. And then once the wheels start falling off, I get my people, we get together, we do what we got to do to keep moving forward, man. Because it's tough out here now for a lot of people, man. And it's not going to get any easier. That's for damn sure.
And the one thing you said that, like you said, when you sat around, you never sat around with your boys and talked about it, that we're at this age. So now, I have a couple, my buddies that I worked with in education, and I'm like, damn, and we talk about and like, damn, we the OGs in this shit. Like for real. Like you would have never thought that this time would fly by, and we're like one of the older people in the building, but yet still relevant to the kids. That and I think that was because we were fortunate to be a part of the hip hop generation
Yeah.
that came around, that we kind of know and kind of everything that they're going through. It's kind of spin the block, whatever. It just it just went back around and like, oh, we already did that. So it's just crazy to be, and then some kids, that's what they recognize you, like, yo, that's OG, or whatever the case is. Like, don't disrespect OG, or whatever the case. So it's like it's just interesting. Like, damn, it's real. It's real. So that's why I always tell kids, like, listen, you're in middle school now. Before you know it, you're gonna be out of high school. Before you blink your eye, and you'll be in college. Like, so don't ever try to disrespect people, like, oh, you old, you this and that, because time don't stand still. So we just we just got to keep it moving and just be a part of it, but at the same time try to progress, and try to do things in your way, the way that you want to do it, like without being someone else dictating how you have to live your life. And I think some people are always pulled in so many directions because they don't get to do it their way. And that's important as you get a certain age, to be able to try to do things your way.
Yeah, and there's this the funny thing about it is and we'll get into this with the content. We associate peer pressure with people younger. We don't think there's adult peer pressure. And unfortunately, there's probably just as much, and in certain situations, more peer pressure on adults to do certain things. You boys think somebody might get married. Yo, man, come on, man. Ever since you got married, and ever since you got this new female, you don't never hang out. Come on, do what you pussy with. Do this, do that. No, man, I'm just I'm switching gears, man. I'm getting out of that lane. I'm trying to develop a relationship, and I know BGS is probably slightly against this anyway. But there's some cats that's out here genuinely looking to get married. Unfortunately, the pool to choose from really isn't that great. So you got a lot of cats that, for lack of a better term, they stuck. They don't know what to do. They may want some in-house. They may want somebody consistent. They don't have a roster. They don't have anybody to reach out to. So what do? They don't want to. They don't want to go to the strip clubs. They're not clubbing. They're not doing so. Just like, I spent all this time not cultivating relationships and not doing this. And this is why I'm a proponent of having female friends. And a lot of guys will give a lot of pushback to say, look, I'm not having no female friends if I ain't trying to better. And I say, hey, that's cool. I understand it, but me, I'm a different type of cat. I move differently than some other dudes. So I may want female friends just to call and say, hey, look, what are you doing? This is a restaurant. Let's go grab a bite to eat. And it breaks up the monotony that a lot of fellas have, especially if they're not in a relationship. And sometimes for me, I'm in mini month mode, so I'm not even really looking to bed women like that. I'm at the point now where, especially when I've got on the gauntlet and I don't have any kids, oh hell no, I'm not even trying to go down that path. And people look at me like I'm crazy. They say, "What?" Especially when I tell them why I vet women the way I do, they look at me and they say, "Oh, dude, you crazy?" I said, "No." I said, "This is how I roll, and the way I roll." It ain't for the faint-hearted. So a lot of dudes, you got to be able to resist that temptation to jump back in that pool and start dealing with some of these younger females, and all of a sudden, one get through the goalie's legs and you on child support or whatever else for the rest of your life, and you say, hey, man, I as much as I like to see the gray hairs, I don't have it. So I told my boy when I saw him in New York City, man, I said, man, I'm trying to get what you got. He said, the gray hairs? I said, yeah. I said, that's a sign of maturity. He said, man, he said, I wish I was like you. So it's kind of like a give and take and a balance on that. So I suppose, when I get there, I'll get there. So
that gray, that you can't stop it. So I always tell people like I'm not going to expend no time trying to diet and try to diet and every other day and try to fight it off. It is what it is. And that's the thing. You got to embellish it, embrace it, and just keep it well groomed and do what you got to do, and you'll be fine because you can't beat Father Time, so it's going to happen sooner or later. But to get on this subject matter, I think it's the right time, as I said on the promo leading to this, because it's the summertime, and we know that a lot of kids have a lot of idle time on their hands, and these camps and different programs is outrageous for parents to pay for. So a lot of times it's just if you got an older sibling at the house, you need to watch them. Mom or dad, we gonna work to 9 to 5, or sometime they may have to work 3 to 11, or whatever the case is, and it leaves a lot of unstructured time for kids. And if somebody doesn't have structure, they gonna veer off and kind of do certain things and become risk takers. And I think that's a part of it. When you see when you see things going on, like we always talk about this on the shows, and I say it's crazy that how many kids be missing, and like every like 2, 3, 4 times a week, I get an alert that it's some female. Usually, it's a female missing.
Yeah,
and it's troublesome. But you think about the way things are now with all the technology and how people can kind of pinpoint where people is at, their location, or ride around, kind of see a certain kid and see that, they go in the house every day by themselves. So back in our days, it was called a latchkey kid. So you start noticing that, like, their parents must go to work. So, let me sit here and see how long somebody shows up as an adult in this household. Oh, wow. She's in the 7th grade. She's at home all the way up until 7 o'clock by herself. And then next thing you know, that's when they making their moves. And it's crazy that it has to be that way. But the only reason you talk about this stuff, because to inform, to let people know that you need to be more mindful, not only girls, but boys too. But boys usually travel in like packs of like it's usually 4 or 5 of them, or some girls it may be 1 or 2. Like prime example, like I said in the promo the other night, I'm coming in, ran out quick, went to the store quickly, see 2 little girls. They raced into the store, and I'm like, they couldn't been no more than like maybe like 9 and 6. Like, where y'all going at like 9:30, 10 o'clock without an adult? If it's a bunch of y'all, 10 of y'all, and y'all walk into the store to get something, it could be a freezy popsicle, some ice cream. If it's a bunch of you, okay, and it's some older kids, and then you got the little ones, because that's how we used to do it when we were growing up. But when you just see 2, you're like, this is why some of these people, they put their kids in vulnerable situations, and you got people watching. Unfortunately, you got people watching, and it's people that probably right around in that neighborhood who kind of know, they've been around. So that I'm just gonna start it off with that. So what made you want to kind of veer into this conversation, Herb?
I was listening to a podcast, and I don't remember who the content, pardon me, creator was, and she had mentioned a website, and it's the website name is lost to me. It's written down somewhere on the mirror of the paperwork I have, and I said it was crazy because it was a website that started on one thing, but it redirected kids to another, and I've been a proponent of saying that kids shouldn't have one of these until they're at least 16. I got a lot of pushback on that. And people were saying, well, why we can't keep track of them? And that's the number one problem. And that's something that you just alluded to. When we were kids, especially as latchkey kids, there was a certain parameter that you didn't venture out from. And it wasn't because your parent didn't trust you. It was because the parent didn't know the other neighbors in neighborhoods 2 blocks over as well as they needed to. So now you talk about essentially kids raising themselves and having access to a phone to where they're in touch with people that they think they know, but they really don't know. So what happens when you have a kid who doesn't have the common sense and they're lured somewhere, especially a female, you just pointed it out, and she starts getting hit on. And when I say hit on, I'm not talking about in the way that a traditional adult or somebody who's flirting is hit on. They start saying, well, why don't you do this? Well, why don't you come hang out here? And why don't you do this? You know, I don't know if I should. And they speak to him long enough. And guess what? They in that ear. They got them hanging all over. And all of a sudden now, they start sending risque pictures. See, we tend to always think of child predators as somebody who's always older. We never look at people who are that kid's age range as a predator. It reminds me of a story, and this story's got to be literally about 8, 9, almost 10 years old. I was out at the local track and I was rollerblading. A group of kids, they were, at this time they're about 8, 9, and they were singing "Why Do Fools Fall in Love." Now I'm looking at these kids and I know that they don't know anything about that genre of music. They were singing the song well. I said, where did y'all learn that from? Oh, okay. I said, see, this is the thing that kids your age should be doing. Y'all should be walking around in groups, having a good time. I said, because as you get older, these are the things you'll look back and you'll talk about. Turns out that one of the kids' fathers was a reverend. I said, oh, so we got to a little philosophical discussion. I said, when you get older, do you think you'll always be like this? Yeah, I'm never going to stray from what my father teaches. And I saw that kid when he was about 16, 17. And I brought up the memory. He said, nah, I don't remember. I said, do you still do what your father? Nah, man, I don't do what my father taught me. I said, just checking. So we have to be cognizant that even though we teach our kids at a young age, their peer group is going to have a lot more influence than we give them. The kids that they go to school with, the popular kids, the in crowd, is also going to have a lot more sway and pull than we do. That's why it's important, at least from my perspective, that parents, if you're going to get your kids a cell phone, especially if they're underage, and when I say underage, I'm speaking under their prepubescent teens, you got to know what websites they're using, who they're talking to, if they're using social media. All those things, in my opinion, and I'm not a parent, I will disclose that. All those things, in my opinion, you should have unfettered access to. And if they are not giving you unfettered access, then your solution is simple. You take away the phone. To me, that's a stipulation of them having access to social media. Is you got to know what they know. Because if you don't know what they know, then you're behind. You're in a position to be manipulated, lied to, misled, and any other descriptive word you want to use, because that's what these kids are doing. These kids are afraid that they're not going to be part of the in crowd. And like I said, that peer pressure is real. It's this, we talk about the adults, but the kids, and it works in different ways, especially as a female. If you are marginal in looks, you want to be among that crowd, you're gonna do virtually anything because you don't see a problem in it. You can say everybody else is doing it. Well, no, everybody else isn't doing it. The people that you want to hang out with are doing it, and there's a difference. This is where, when we talked about fathers, this is where having a father, especially for a young female, is imperative because he can guide her. He's that lattice work that we see roses tied to, so the roses grow up straight. Same thing for boys, albeit it's different for boys. And I know a lot of people don't like the fact that you have to raise boys and girls different, because the society expects certain things from men and expects certain things from women. Now everybody gets caught up in this woke culture and say, well, you can't do that, which is all the more reason why you should, because when we get down to it, gender roles are not going away. They're here to stay, and they're here for biological reasons. If you don't like it, that's too bad. Just look at what they're doing with selective service now. There's talk about women being opted in the same way as men, and true to form, when it was rolled out, the same people that fought against it then are fighting against it now. So I have not, Doc. There's, man, this, with the time off between shows, man, I've been taking in some content from a lot of people, man. And another book I came across other than this one is The Manipulated Male. And shout out to the Manosphere Highlights Daily. I gotta get that book. Yo, this book was written in the 1970s. I think around the time I was born, which is 71. And the gems that was being dropped in that book, man, you talk about sobering. It reminds me of Sister Sherazad Ali in the book that she wrote, The Black Man's Guide to Understanding the Black Woman, and the pushback she got. This book, from what I've heard of this book, reminds me of that. So I got a list of, I probably have over 200 books that I need to purchase. So I need to get a move on. As well as my book. And speaking of a segue, I was in the process of I won't say rewriting, because I'm doing an edit on my first draft. I was going to write some more because they were telling me that in order for them to do a hard copy of the book, they want 60 to 70 pages. So I was going to write some more. And then I realized something. This isn't what I want that book to be about. I want that book to focus on one particular thing, and that is time management while dating. That's all I want. I don't want there to be anything else. I don't want there to be any reading that's going to divert from that, because for me, I start to get into the history of dating and why does it become so complicated for a lot of people. For me, it isn't, but I realize I'm a huge anomaly. I make dating simple. Either I want to be around you or I don't. That's, for me, that's all dating is.
Wow.
No, for me, honestly, it is. It is, man, because I've been talking to somebody I've known for 30 years, and they don't live in this country. They live about a half hour, maybe 40 minutes north. And I'm going to hang out with her. Absolutely. Nothing else. Because that's what I want to do. I just want to hang out with somebody. No muss, no fuss. That's it. No strings attached, no pressure, no nothing. No expectations for her, or at least for me. I don't think she has any expectations either. So I'm at the point now where I'm just like, look, stop making dating complicated. Stop making it hard. Just have a simple philosophy when it comes to dating. Number one is you got to know yourself. And I'm giving up some of the book here. You got to know yourself. A lot of people out here dating, and they don't know who they are. Not to get off the topic, but if you ask it for, and I want people to do this, if you listen to this live or if you listen to the rebroadcast, I want you to do something. I want you to ask an individual, who they are. And I guarantee you that if it's a man, he's going to start off with his accomplishments, his education, what he does for work, all those things. And none of that tells you about who he is. Same thing with a woman. She's going to start out about probably her education if she has any kids. None of that tells you who she is. And this is this is the problem that we face with dating. Now we brought this back to kids. When these kids start getting together and they start talking amongst themselves, what do you think they talk about? The same thing adults talk about, albeit a lesser content. They talk about songs, clothes, food, movie. It's all based around culture. So what do you think you have? What kind of culture do you think you have when you have kids who are being exposed either via music, social media, or something else that's being directly to them in their cell phone? And that's what they talk about.
Well, I've been saying since I've been at the middle school level that their relationships is parallel to adult relationships. And it's a lot of connections in between. But I guess I would have to take the time to put everything together to come out with a book to
hey man,
for people
do it.
so people can understand and see, because also in counseling education, the one thing they say is the middle school, that's the purest form of counseling. Elementary is elementary, high school, they're more, you know, they're kind of on a path like make or break. Either I'm gonna go this way, go that way. Middle school is in between, so they could go either way. So that they say that's where the truest form of counselings take place in the school at the middle school level. And for me, I was fortunate to work at all levels. And no, seriously, at all levels: college, high school, middle school, and elementary. Shit, call me the goat of education. Uh, for real, because I don't know too many people who can say that they worked at all levels. Uh, that middle school level is, you know, they're very impressionable, and they could go either way. They could go either way. So, and some of the things that they say, you're like, damn, this is no different than adult uh, conversations or relationships. So that's wild. But one thing I wanted to go back on when we were talking about kids and missing kids, that this was, and I didn't write everything down. These were some stats just out of like 2022, 2023, that there were 206 uh, thousand missing girls and 172,000 missing boys under the age of 21, which, you know, it's a little difference. It ain't a great amount, but then what what was crazy was over the age of 21, there's 65,000 missing females and 103,000 missing males over 21. Now, who could tell me who could tell me that riddle or what changed? Uh, and I didn't go no deeper into that, and I will look into that. Like, yo, what happened? That once they get over 21, it's more missing males than it is females.
I couldn't even I couldn't even venture a wild guess that because we tend to look at women as a third gender. Now, usually when we look at the third gender, usually that's based upon um the physical ability to do certain things, because obviously women can get pregnant. So once a woman reaches a certain gestation and her pregnancy, she becomes a little less physically mobile. But the only thing I can surmise is that a lot of these younger boys, they're not of the mindset that we were, when we were 21, and that is obvious to anybody who's ever dealt with um, Gen Alpha kids. I think this generation, they lack a certain awareness, to understand what a trouble situation potentially looks like, what danger looks like. And like I said, you know, that stranger danger thing that we were taught nowadays, that's not the problem. It's people who you hanging out with. It's people who you know that more than likely gonna set you up for something that you never thought. And it's just like, you know, aren't they friends? They grew up together. They went to high school together, and this is how they treat each other. It it is bizarre world out here. People introduce somebody to some type of drug use, and who knows what they got on the market now. When we were kids, the drug of choice was alcohol. So those of you who drank it, you know what I'm talking about. You drink your Wild Irish Rose, your Mad Dog 2020, or Zima was out. That was the extent of what you did to get quote unquote high or get messed up or whatever it was. Who knows what these kids are into now? Some huffing and vaping is something that was done in our generation, but who knows what these kids are doing now? And more importantly, who knows where they're doing it at? So you got a kid that's 18, 19, they start hanging out with older kids in their mid to late 20s. Yo, man, come on, won't you come with me? Well, where are we going? I'm going to hang out with my boy. So you're thinking it's your boy. Why shouldn't you trust him? You've been hanging with this kid for 6, 7 years. Y'all done went to high school together. Might be in college, may not be in college. Next thing you know, you hanging out with somebody, you done got a hold of some funny shit, and all of a sudden now, you don't know where you are. People done quote unquote kidnapped you. They done trafficked you, and ain't nobody heard from you since. Now, we tend not to hear about missing males. And it's not that society doesn't necessarily care about missing males. Society just doesn't really pay that much attention to it because we're thinking, well, what's the use in kidnapping a male? Can you sexually exploit him? Yes. Yes, you can sexually exploit a male. And I know it sounds counterintuitive, but the same way young women are trafficked for sex, don't think a young boy can't be done the same. It happens. We just don't hear about it. So, I'll put it out there. That's the only thing I can
So,
come up with. So, I don't know.
so that reminds me of what's his name? Dwayne. I think it was a post from him was saying is the new characteristic of the sexual predator is the teachers, because you see it's popping up frequently that these teachers are having sex with younger boys, and it's happening. And I think it's probably always been around. Like I always say, most boys, that's a win for them, that they're not
Mm-hmm.
going to tell no one that, hey, this woman took advantage of me, because they're high-fiving it.
Yeah.
And I think the only way it gets out is if it leaks to a certain person and they're real close to like their mother or something like
Yeah.
that. And then they say, hey, yeah, I don't go over there often because they be doing stuff with like older women. And then I'm like, well, wait a minute, what are you talking about? And they give details, and that's how it is. But I think for many boys, they would high five it, but somehow it leaks and it gets out. And that's how these older females or teachers and stuff get caught. And so you wonder why, as as often as y'all wonder, like, why do older men like mess with younger women? You wonder why teachers would say, "Damn, I want to give this little kid or this high school kid," because granted, sometimes a teacher may be 23, 24, and that very well high school student may be 18, 19. Uh, that's really not much of a difference. Is she might like, damn, shit, he fine as hell. Conversation happened, and he's plowing her, or whatever the case is. What's good, people? Like these things are happening right there, and also I mentioned in the promo, and I talked about this before. You got to be mindful again of those people who overly compliment your kids, whether they whether it's a young boy and they say, "Oh, he is so handsome, man. He gonna be fine as hell when he get older," and all that. That's that praying type of language. Just sitting back, waiting. I'm in with the family. Oh, as soon as he get of age, I'm gonna show him something, or I'm gonna put out some gesture that he's gonna want me. And I think a lot of that is happening. But some of y'all think that shit cute. Cause y'all be like, oh,
Yeah.
they just such and such, they cool, whatever. Yeah, that's my baby. He look good and all that. Stop putting your kids out there like that. And that's another thing. And I always talk about it. Some of y'all put too much exposure of these children out there. And it don't take much for people to be strolling through and see and like, "Hmm, she is cute." And start getting fixated with shit and then start trying to download stuff and trying to figure out, oh, we're in the same city. Oh, they at this location. This is how this shit take place. But y'all don't want to hear that because y'all love posting because really what y'all looking for is validation for yourself.
Yeah.
Y'all lost y'all relevance, and the only relevance you got is your kids.
Hmm.
And y'all putting them out there because the reason I say this because I've just did in services and webinars where they were saying a lot of times it's the parents that keep putting stuff out there. Oh, my kids got straight A's, and they post report cards, and it's the school right there. Uh, oh, my kid, they just went to the prom, and or junior prom, and all the information is right there, the name of the school and all that. Oh, my kid plays for this sports team. Y'all don't think it's people sitting around on computers watching this shit? This is how it's happening. This is how they get those little details, and they say, "Oh, this was the school she go to." Okay, I'm gonna go up there. I'm gonna pull up. I'm gonna see which bus she get on. I'm gonna see, does she go in the house by herself? I know y'all don't want to hear this, but this is how this stuff is going down. And then you wonder because it's just kids just can't. When we were growing up, kids just wasn't missing all like how they missing in this day and
Yeah.
age. It wasn't.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Go ahead.
I'm trying to recall, male or female for this matter, anybody that I grew up with, whether it's because I've lived in rural areas as well, either urban or rural, that was ever kidnapped. And I can't ever, and I mean hundreds of kids I knew with the elementary school with, high school with, that were the subject of an attempt to kidnap or a successful kidnap. It didn't happen. Like what I alluded to earlier, we knew everybody in the neighborhood. We knew people from a block over in each direction. Kids, whether they were Caucasian kids, on a rare occasion Hispanic kids, You knew everybody. And if the parents didn't know their parents, they knew enough to ask us, where are you going? And the street lights was always a big thing. The street lights was the hammer. If you weren't in your front yard or on the block when the street lights was on, you didn't get to go back outside. And for us, the outside was the cell phone, because you weren't trying to be the one sitting on the porch talking about, I didn't beat the street light home, so I can't come out. And that was real, those type of parameters aren't put in place. So parents keep thinking that, oh, I got a cell phone. All I got to do is geotag them and I now know where they are. So what happens if the kid loses a phone? We know how often that happens. What do you mean if the kid loses his phone? The kid never loses his phone. Okay. What happens if the kid swaps phones with somebody else? What happens if that kid leaves their phone somewhere for an hour? You geotag them. They go somewhere else for an hour and a half, and they come back and they say, well, why didn't you respond to my text? Oh, I was busy. We was doing this. All the while, they done stepped off and they've been doing something. Unbeknown to you, unbeknown to any adult, the only people that know are the people they're with. And they done did a pinky swear, and they ain't telling nobody. You don't find out till years later that your son or your daughter been out here doing some illicit things, and now you want to sue somebody when the first person you should be looking at is yourself. Like David said, a lot of parents are the first people to put their kids in the crosshairs. I remember, I have multiple Facebook accounts, but I have another account under a pseudonym, and I'd had this woman on my Facebook friends list for years, and I mean years, like 7-8 years. And she said something one day, and I sent her a message. I said, I didn't know you had children. She said, nobody's supposed to. And I said, that's a smart woman. Sometimes you have to treat your kids like you do your underwear. And I know this sounds crazy as hell. What the hell do you mean by that? Who knows what color underwear you wear? Who knows what kind of underwear you wear? Treat your kids like your underwear. It ain't nobody else's business but yours, their fathers, maybe your immediate family, where your kid is, what your kid does, and where they're going. Stop posting that stuff on social media. Stop putting your kids in unnecessary harm's way. And I know what you're thinking. If I want to post my kids, it's my business. Yeah, it's your business until something happens and you call the authorities and they're doing a canvas sweep, or for schools that are that big, a community sweep, because you ain't seen little Becky in 6 hours. Normally she comes home at this time. Or you ain't seen little Brad since yesterday, and little Brad is always here. All of a sudden now you went to community help when the community was telling you, stop posting your kids' whereabouts. Stop posting what your kid does. Stop posting where your kid goes. Stop posting who your kid hangs out with. And if your kid is doing that and they geotag and stuff, take the phone. But like David said, y'all don't want to hear that, and y'all don't want to do that. And then you wonder why these kids develop in the manner that they do. They don't see danger because they've been so desensitized to what danger looks like. That hell, it's a for a kid, you treat them like it's a store full of their favorite things. They walk in, and next thing you know, that door closed behind them, and what they knew is no longer. Whether they're trafficked, harmed, or whatever it is, you got to understand that there's a conduit that everybody walks down, that everybody walks through. Some people say, oh, wait a minute. Mm-mm. I ain't seen this. It don't look familiar. I don't know who's here. I'm going back the other way. Those are the smart kids. Those are the smart adults that say, you know what? Mm-mm. That's not right. What were you doing there? And they don't want to tell you. And this is something we alluded to last week. They don't want to tell you because of the negative repercussions that come with telling the truth. I'm sorry, I said last week before last. You have to give those kids space so when they mess up, that you are not going to be unnecessarily harsh. You have to be strict, But there's a difference between being strict and too harsh. Give them room to make errors, but also allow them to grow from those errors without being unnecessarily admonished.
See, one of the issues is, and I think when people expose their kids and all this stuff, again, I think a lot of it is they feel like they don't have no relevance and they have kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like, I didn't do this, but I want to pump my kids up and all that, but they don't understand the dangers of social media and all that comes with it. Like, everybody wants to support their kids and stuff, but you also have to be aware of what's out there, and that people that you don't know that see all this stuff. Yeah, it's crazy that it has resulted in people being that sick that that they will look at a girl's image, whether she's a cheerleader, dancer, or whatever, and get fixated on that. And then oftentimes, like I said, it don't be strangers. It be people that's in the community that see stuff. So a lot of times you just have to focus on what you're doing. Let kids be kids. I know you're proud of them. Uh, we always are proud of every accomplishment our kid does, but understand that once you sharing it, even if you think it's just, oh, it's not public, it's just to your friends group, but then other people still see what's on other people's pages or whatever the case is, and they like licking their chops.
Yeah.
And this is the thing. This is what's happening, and where people don't. I don't know. I guess they're just looking for validation, or you get older and say, "Hey, man, I got 200 likes on this or whatever." I never understood how people could have a young kid or a grandchild and ask for social media to give their kid a shout out for their birthday or whatever the
Yeah,
case is.
that's
Like,
different.
what are you doing? Like, that kid don't even don't give two shits. And yeah, looking for praise or for people to say, "Happy birthday, Destiny! Happy birthday, Destiny!" They don't know her or whatever the case is. Like, for real, we got to start feeling better about ourselves. And I think that's where it starts from. People that feel good about themselves, they might be rigid in a certain way. Like, my kid, we don't need all that shit. We good. But
Right.
people looking for validation, and that may be something that they didn't get when they were younger, or they looking for acceptance. And now a lot of people are using kids for validation. And but then you got those people again. What's the title of the show? The shadow in the corner. They just sit back, the shadow watching, see what's going on, and then they make moves. And y'all might like, oh, uh, I'm not paying attention to them. Then you're like, damn, they talked about this shit.
Yeah.
They've been talking about this stuff. Nobody ever broke it down like the way they breaking it down. Because you'll start hearing other people talk about it, and y'all be like, damn, we've been doing this shit. Head of the game. But it's real.
Yeah. I would tell people this: do this with your kids, regardless of what their age is. Especially if you allow them to have, if you want unfettered access to a cell phone, and they are free to go on any website, especially TikTok. TikTok, and I haven't been on TikTok probably in a little over a year. Um, and from what I've heard now, Twitter is allowing soft corn on the website. When I heard that, I was just like, wow. And I know Facebook is inundated with that type of stuff. So Ask them what their top 2 or top 3 social media websites are. Ask them who are their favorite content creators. And if you gotta bribe them, give them $5, give them $5. Tell them you're doing the survey for whatever it is. And I want you to go and look at those people and what they post and what they talk about. Because more than likely, that's what's influencing your child. And I'm not saying what the people talk about is good or it's bad. But if you want to know what influences, what your child is being influenced by, or your child's influences, that's what your child is being influenced by. That's what your child is being influenced under. So whether it's I'm gonna say this, and I want to say this lightly, whether it's same gender content, heterosexual content, or any content that potentially exposes them to sex, drug use, or anything that can lead them down that path that they're not physiologically ready for, you would be foolish to not know. Because I know a lot of parents aren't sitting their kids down and having this discussion about drugs. They're not sitting their kids down and having these discussions about the dangers of having sex, regardless of what their age is. Because I'm not sure what sex ed is in school, but they only go so far, even if they are teaching it. And a lot of parents will say, this is what we're paying taxes for. This is what we send our kids to school for. No. You, as a parent, should be your child's primary teacher. And the reason why I say that is this. Is because you get to, quote unquote, control how they use information. Not what information they take in. Because you can give 2 people the same information and they can use it in 2 different ways. Some people can use it to be constructive. Some people can use it to be destructive. I can give a person a blueprint on human psychology, and they can use it to better understand people and the world around them. I can give another person that same information, and they can go out and they can manipulate the world to get what they want. People will say, well, damn, how do you ensure that your kid isn't one of those people that is running out to manipulate the world and get what they want? This is why you have to instill in your child certain concepts when they're young enough to grasp them, so you can mold them, so you can shape them, so when you do let them out into the world, that they're not running out there causing havoc, that they're not reaching back, grabbing somebody else's kid and tainting them. So they have the wherewithal to, when they get 18, 19, that they're not part of the what was 120 some odd thousand kids, that 100 boys anyway, that come up missing, or those girls. They understand. They say, "Hey, wait a minute." I remember the conversation me and my mother had about something like this. You pull your man's coattail, you pull your girl's coattail, you say, "Yo, man, I gotta get up out of here." What, you scared? And the answer should be yes. Tell your kids, never be afraid to admit that a situation makes them uncomfortable. It gives them power. And that's what we have to understand, is we have to empower our children to take ardent action and get themselves out of a potential messed up situation. It doesn't necessarily have to be something that can harm them physically, because physical harm is not necessarily always the greatest harm. Sometimes the greatest harm is the mental harm, because I guarantee you that if you break a bone, that's going to heal. In the time, you forget about that pain. You remember it, but it's not going to be something that you're every waking day. But I guarantee you, if an individual walks down the street, it's late at night, and they get mugged, that's going to be far worse than any broken bone they've ever had, because they'll be a prisoner in their own mind. They'll be afraid to go out at night. They're not going to want to do things. They'll become a semi-recluse. And you talk about the effects, those effects can last a lifetime. So we have to prepare our kids for the unknown. And the only way we can prepare our kids for the unknown is by addressing the unknowns and the potential situations and what leads one down that path of uncertainty. So when the signs start to become visible, they can say, you know what? No, the hairs on the back of my neck are starting to stand up. Something ain't right. I'm gone. Live to tell the tale, but don't become the tale. You gotta empower your kids, but you gotta do that when they're young, not when they start to get 15, 16, 17, because by then it's a little too late. They started formulating their own opinions. They started getting their own group of friends, and the boys are gonna say, "Hey, look, I'm a big boy. I can take care of myself." Until somebody bigger comes along, and all of a sudden it's like, okay, wait a minute. Oh shit! The hell? It happens. It happens.
So that would be the importance of when I had mentioned about some of the online safety tips for kids. Because remember, like I said, in the summertime, can y'all hear me?
Yeah.
Herb, you can. So in the
Yeah, I can hear
summertime,
you.
like I said, it's a lot of idle time, and you think about it, kids, shit, it ain't shit on TV. Ain't shit on TV like that keep kids' interest. Their interest is the phone or some type of tablet or whatever the case. They would rather Google stuff and watch stuff on YouTube and stuff like that. I don't even think kids really don't watch TV like that.
No.
And I can say even like I think about like my niece or whatever. She's like, she don't watch TV. She watch stuff on her phone, and she's older. And I'm like, for real, like your phone, like they like stuff that they could kind of right there, tangible. They could touch, they could control, or whatever the case is. So when I think about the tips, they say, let your kids know. Never send compromising images of themselves. It happens. It's happening in elementary. It's happening in middle school. They're getting catfish. They send things, and more than likely, a boy that age, is going to be so happy to be sent a picture of some girl's private part. He's going to share it with someone. It's not like
Oh
he's
yeah.
going to say, "Yo, that's mine." Like, "Yo, I don't want nobody else to see it because they gonna want it." They just like, "Yo, look at such and such," but that's supposed to be his girlfriend,
Yeah.
and he's gonna show his friends, and then they're gonna share it. Then guess who? Guess who? Image or relationship get tarnished? The young lady. So she, like they say, it takes. It's easy to build up your kind of your image, but it's so quick to take away your reputation. Like that quick. Like,
Yeah.
oh, she sent out nudes or whatever the case is. A lot of y'all parents don't know that. Y'all don't know what they be doing with these phones. So you got to warn your kids about that. Also, clicking on links and emails and stuff that just pop up. Sometimes people they just want you to click on that stuff so that they could get your information or they could delve into more stuff. And I'm telling you this because many of y'all probably will be working, and these kids have phones and computers, and they ain't watching shit on TV because it ain't shit on TV that keep their interest. So they finding this, they got this stuff on the phones, and so it's easy access. And then all about the webcams, turning off your devices. I don't know about all that webcam shit, but I know some people do have the webcams and all this stuff. But these are things that if you know that your kid have access to, you need to be talking to them about it. Even a friend request. But even as adults, sometimes you accept friend requests that you know, like, oh, wait a minute. Some people have a rigorous screening process. Some people like, oh, somebody want to request me as a friend. Let me click on it. Oh, then they find out, oh shit, like this person
Yeah, not
is
what they thought
weird.
they were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just imagine if adults can handle that. What would a kid do if somebody posted, if it's a girl and it's like this little handsome, like a handsome picture of a guy, and they look on like, oh, he's so cute, and whatever the case is. But meanwhile, it's some freaking 30-some-year-old man with a teenage kid picture, and he's it's crazy that we resorted to this. But these are some of the tips that you need to tell them, or either you need to put restrictions on their phones and what they can do, and kind of time it out. And I know many see when you work in the school system, you kind of hear the excuses they make and all that, and some of y'all still riding on that 911 thing, like you want them to be able to get a hold of you and all of that stuff. So yeah, open to letting. That's why elementary kids, kindergartens, second graders, they have cell phones and all that stuff because y'all want them to be able to have full access, even though they're in school. Don't even make sense. Like they don't have phones in the school, but that's
Yeah,
what y'all running with.
yeah. And I'm gonna follow up with what David was said with something that really just came to mind. What I would advise parents to do is this: start breaking your child's phone use and make it equivalent to their development. Case in point, you have a child. Like I said, I'm a proponent that nobody, at least a kid, shouldn't have a phone until they're at least 16. So that means pretty much until they're in ninth grade, eighth, ninth grade, high school, ninth, 10th grade, somewhere about that. Concentric circles of development. Third, fourth grade. Where are they at mentally in terms of being able to process certain things? And and these things may not necessarily be age appropriate. The questions that you're asking, which is why you're asking them. So you can ask them, what do they know about sex? Have they ever heard the term? Do their friends talk about it? Third, fourth grade, fifth, sixth grade. Has your child menstruated? And I know this is for the women. This is gonna sound kind of nutty. For your boys, is he having wet dreams? Because for the boys, that's the equivalent of him starting to hit puberty. You got to ask these questions because these are the things that are going to bridge the gap for you to open the dialogue, for you to have these quote unquote uncomfortable conversations with your child. There should be nothing about your child's development, physically, mentally, psychologically, that you're not aware of. Because usually it's the blind spots you have as parents that catch you off guard. And when they do, and if you're a single parent, you don't know where to turn. You don't know if your school has resources for it. You don't know if your county provides resources for it. And more importantly, if they do, who do you talk to get access to these resources so you can deal with some of the issues that you might potentially be having? This is how a lot of stuff is discovered when parents start sitting around and start asking these kids. They'll say, well, wait a minute. Who introduced you to this? Where did you hear about this at? And they say, well, I was on the website, I was talking to my friend, and they introduced me to this website. And another thing, what David was talking about with the pictures being sent, two things, links. We often hear about spyware. You have no idea, most people don't, about how spyware can function and be benign. So if somebody sets up some spyware and your kid clicks on the link, they follow your kid every move online. And then there's the legal ramifications. If your child is caught sexting, they can be labeled as a felon. Think about that for a moment. This is something we discussed before. Do you want your 14, 15-year-old kid labeled as a felon, as a sex offender, whether it's level 1, 2, or 3, just because they're engaging in something that all the peers do because you didn't sit down and you didn't have this conversation with them about, hey, look, if people are sending you this type of stuff, block them, don't deal with them. This is something we were talking about earlier at the top of the show, where some people you're going to leave behind. You got to teach your kids at an early age that if somebody's engaging in some behavior that could potentially get them in trouble, you got to learn how to tell your kids, hey, it's okay to leave that person alone, because that person is going to end up getting in trouble and they're going to take you down with you. You think they're going down by themselves? Think again. If they can blame you and get away with it, they can blame you so they can get away with it. They can say, hey, it wasn't nothing personal. I just want to get in trouble. My mother would have killed me. So they leave you out to hang. They leave you out to dry. Next thing you know, you got to go down to the police station. You got to get your kid out of some situation that your kid was really innocent in. But because they got the information on their phone, of course, you look at them as guilty, because they do these seminars every year, at least from what I know in the Niagara Falls School District. They do it every year, especially in what we call the preparatory schools, which are the 7th and 8th grade. So people, sit down with your kids, have these heart-to-heart discussions with them, and let them know, hey, look, you're not in trouble. You ain't doing anything wrong. I just want to know what you know. And if you got to bribe them. But know what your kids know. Because the moment your kids know more than you, they set you up for manipulation. And don't think as a parent, you can't be manipulated.
Yeah. And one of the things, when I even look at the participation or who's watching or viewing this show right now, people really don't want to talk about these conversations because it's uncomfortable. And a lot of times, some parents don't want to be at odds with their kids. They don't want to bump heads. They want to be best friends with them. So they want to stay in good graces with their kids. So they're not willing to confront or have conversations and say, listen, shit, right now, you in my household, you can't do shit for me, or whatever the case is. I run it until you get out of here. This is the way it's gonna be. This is the only way it's gonna be. Or, if they're single, you could go live with your dad, but we already know he may be under somebody else's roof, or whatever the case is, or he has his own spot. He don't want to be bothered with you like that. So they don't want to have these conversations. So they kind of just be passive. They're fine. Nothing happened. I'm just going to let everything go until you get into situations. And I definitely want to talk about the child predators, some of the characteristics, the grooming. Yeah, that you see it, people grooming, and again, it could be somebody that they have a trusting relationship with, and they're saying little things to try to build them up and get them, influence them to say, no, he's, the kid will defend that person to the end. He's not like that. Trust me. I worked in situations, and I shared this before, when I first got into working with youth, and I was transporting this kid, and I think he ended up being molested by an adult. Then he ended up molesting maybe like a young siblings and stuff like that. And we riding and we just talking, and he was like, I know somebody that you can't beat, Mr. David. And I'm like, who is that? He's like, him. And I'm like, who you talking about? And he's like, the reason why I'm in this group home. And I was like, I still don't know what you're talking about. And he was like, the guy that did stuff to me and kind of made me, he kind of verbalized it. And I was young. I was like 23, 24. And I was like, yo, this shit too much. But the influence that perpetrator had on him, that he glorified him.
Yeah.
And he pretty much said, this is kind of why I'm in this situation, because that person taught me to do this, and then I went on to do it to other little, maybe his siblings or whatever the case was. And I'm like, yo, I'm too young for this. I'm like 23, 24, hearing this stuff. I got my degree, but I wasn't prepared to hear all this stuff coming at me. But it's real. And, that's that grooming thing, that that little kid was well groomed, that he thought he idolized the person that perpetrated and violated him, and he went on to do it. So that's one thing. The grooming. Sometimes people, child predators, they they target vulnerable situations. People know when, like, certain parents are slow, they're low, they don't have all their mental capacities, and you very well may have a guy that's dating you, and they'll say, she's not with it, the mother, but damn, her daughter fine as shit, and if I can get to the daughter, the mother already got her. She on lockdown. She vulnerable. She broke. She needs me. And that daughter, shit, I want her. I need her. And that's his whole thing. I know it ain't a lot of y'all watching it now, but I'll run this clip back so that y'all can see it. And y'all say, oh shit. And they're like, yeah, I don't mess with the mother. Shit, I'm there. Shit, I sleep on the couch. I'm trying to get at the daughter. Yeah, they know that it's a vulnerable situation. Then you have some predators. They just have an uncaring attitude. They don't give a damn. They feel like they're invincible. They can do whatever they want to do, and they'll try it because they've never been caught, or whatever the case is. So, and they don't even care about the kids feeling, because they're like, listen here, shit, I'm here, I'm doing this, I'm giving you this or that. Kind of like, shut the hell up. And some kids, they'll submit to that, like, it ain't right. I wouldn't have this if it wasn't for this person.
And that's a manipulation, yeah.
Yeah. Pushing boundaries. Predators gonna push boundaries, whether it's sexual. They'll make comments, or they'll say certain things that everything's on fence. Might be kind of ambiguous, like, I didn't mean that, or whatever the case is. They're willing to push those boundaries. to for it to be their advantage. Again, I'll talk about the flattery, saying, "Damn, she's so cute. Could be a guy. Like, oh man, that girl, she's gonna be fine as hell when she get older. Oh, if I was 10 years
Yeah.
younger, when you hear that language, you done. You already know. When
That's what you
somebody
know. What?
tell
It's funny.
you, that's a go ahead.
It's
Go
funny
ahead.
you say that. It's funny you say that. I avoid any contact with any female if she's, I don't even want to say underage. If I think that anything that I might say might be misconstrued. This is one of the reasons why I don't give compliments to women. Period. I could care less what their age is because I realize I'm an older black man. So any compliment that I can potentially give a woman that is not at least my age can always be misconstrued. Oh, you lecherous, or you out here targeting young women. I'm just, it was a compliment. And then I realized how that compliment can be taken and anybody can use it in any way, shape, or form that they want to. And to what they was talking about with with the grooming, there's the NBA draft player, NBA draft, a guy that was drafted into the NBA named Kyle Filipowski,
Mm.
whose girlfriend I think is 8 years his senior. How she pulled this off, I don't even know. I really don't. He's 20, so he falls within that demographic that Dave mentioned earlier at the top of the show about the statistics of men as they get older going MIA. His groomer, if you will, had been dealing with this young man since he was in high school.
Because she was the babysitter, right?
I don't know if she was a babysitter or what, but
I
somehow,
think
some way,
that's
she
right.
managed to.
Babysitter.
She, yeah, she managed to get her hooks into him. Now, I'm not saying what is. I'm not saying what isn't. All I'm simply saying is we associate groomers, child predators with men. And as David alluded to earlier, these women are younger. To think they don't have a voracious sexual appetite and they're not looking for some young stud, especially if he has an in on a lucrative financial future, you're deluding yourselves. She took this young man to his high school prom. Okay, I want y'all to grasp that for a moment. His high school prom. How many people do you know that went to their high school prom with somebody who was actually old enough to buy alcohol legally? They're out there. And the more access that they have to your kids, the more likely they're probably apt to abuse it. Now, I'm not saying who's going to do what. I'm just saying don't put your kids in a situation to become victims. Because that's what happened. His brother posted on Twitter how she got in between him and his family and drove a wedge in between them. How the hell does somebody get between you and your high school junior and senior as a parent and drive a wedge between you? I read that story. I said that doesn't make any sense to me. I said that's absolutely crazy.
She gave him that good, and that's what it was.
And shout out to I first saw this on Dr. T. Hassan Johnson's page. So shout out to the good doc. I said, man, I said, I said, I said, yo, this is just a twisted, demented time we living in. And I know people talk about well, men have been doing this. Yeah, I never discount that. The fact that men do it is alarming. The fact that women do it for me, is almost unthinkable because I've never considered women to be those type of predators, and maybe that's why they get away with it so much more easily than men. Because think about it, babysitters overwhelmingly are what gender? Female. Why? We don't look at females as sexual abusers until we discover that, oh, wait a minute, she's an abuser. Well, she's been hired by 6 or 7 families to babysit their kids. Unless you got cameras, nanny cameras set up in your house, do you know what she has or has not been doing with your son? Do you know what she has or has not been doing with your daughter? I know that's unsettling. But these are the questions people got to ask themselves.
And I think what's crazy is that women probably been doing this for a long time. And again, guys just haven't spoken on it. And I mentioned this before that I think I mentioned on the show earlier that I have friends that they had mothers that was my mother's age, and they would be, filling them up, grinding, doing whatever. I didn't know nothing about that culture. So, and that was only a street away. And I wouldn't go over there. And they're like, you need to get off of North. You need to get off of here and come on over here. This is what we doing. This is what's going down. Like we 9 or 10. I don't know anything about grinding on some grown ass woman with a big ass. But this was happening. But, they high-fiving because this is happening. And it wasn't part of my culture because I was raised by pretty much females with my mother, my aunts, my grandmother, my grandfather was around. So I didn't look at it like that. It's like sexual. But my friends, they would look at like they would say to my mother, my aunts and all that, man, your mother, you're so fine. Your aunt's fine. Like, dude, you like 10. Like, I don't look at y'all mothers like that. But they was on a different level, whatever, thinking because the things that they were doing. Like, I never looked at as a 10-year-old that a 29, 30-year-old woman, like, oh, she fine. She's sexy. But they were more advanced. They were more advanced than I was, and I just looked at them as being a nurturing person to me and taking care of all of my, needs and stuff. But this shit been happening. We know it's been happening, but it's out there. Again, many guys, they would never. They may enjoy it. Girls, they may be cultivated into a taught, and that's how they end up with older men. It's no secret that shit in certain places that you have the guys that were the street hustlers that was 18, 19, 20, 21 going up to the high school, scooping up the 14-year-old girls, 15-year-old girls, and they were and you know why? Because the mother said, well, shit, he gonna buy her school clothes. He gonna do this. He probably gonna give me a few dollars. And shit.
And their daughters. Yeah.
Yeah. So all of this stuff when we talk about the sex trades and all that stuff, this stuff been going on. Now it's just more widespread because of social media, but it's been going on. And at the same time, that same guy probably was sleeping with the mother too, while the kid was in school.
Ooh. Yeah, man, that, I mean, And you know what the funny thing about it is, I look back on my life having dated somebody when I was 24 who was 36, had a 16-year-old. And I remember somebody asking, "You didn't try to sleep with the daughter?" I said, "Dude," I said, "Are you crazy?" They said, "Man, I would have." I'm like, "Nah, son, my boat don't float that way. I'm sorry." I said, I'm sorry, dude. Nah, man, that's a negative for me, dude. Nope, 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 nope. But you have some people whose scruples run that way. So, and that's why I was, alluding to the concentric circles of development. And I don't know if that's a psychological thing. It's just something I just said because the farther away a kid gets from a certain age, you expect them to hit certain developmental markers, and they're supposed to. They're getting older, so the world gets bigger. They're going to be introduced to more things. More is going to be expected of them. But there should also be a boundary that they shouldn't cross until they're able to handle it. And I'll point out two things. There's a song that Guru, shout out to that man, made on Jazzmatazz, and the Jazzmatazz album is probably about 30 years old now, called Sights in the City. SIGHT in the city. I want you all to listen to that song and relate it to what we're discussing here tonight. And number two is a more popular movie called The Antoine Fisher Story, where that story is told about him being sexually abused. And I know a lot of people, don't think about it, but foster care is a breeding ground for the exploitation of kids, because caseworkers in a lot of situations, and I can speak to this firsthand, they are overworked. And if you have kids who are in foster care, who are not being visited regularly by their caseworker, by a parent or family members, they are potential victims in waiting. Because who do they talk to? Who do they say? Who do they speak to if something happened to them? What do they do if they don't know? It's not like they can talk to an older brother, mother, father. And I know what people think. Well, they have technology and cell phone. Well, what happens if they don't? They gonna go to school and tell who? The teacher? The teacher's gonna say, "Oh no, that person's been fostering kids for 15 years. We've never heard such a thing." So now you put the kid in a situation to where the kid's experiences are being questioned. So now what do you do as a kid when you tell somebody the truth and they're questioning you as if you don't know what's happened to you? These are this 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 onion has a lot of layers and a lot of people, and understandable. A lot of people wouldn't even think about foster care. Well, because I don't know anybody that's in foster care. My kids aren't in foster care. I guarantee you that if you do a search in your school district, you'd be surprised how many kids are in foster care that attend school with your children. I will say that much because I remember doing it. And I was like, oh, because I was going to set up a counselor, not a peer counseling group, but a peer group for kids that were in foster care, having been there myself, because it's a group of people who really don't have a whole lot of people to turn to because they don't know anybody that's in the same situation and circumstances that they are. So we're better than another person who's in the same circumstances and situation, finding camaraderie. And this is how you can build links to where those people aren't alone, to where if something happens, they can confide in somebody in the group, because eventually the information gets out. One way or another, eventually the information leaks out. And that's when people start to ask questions. And that's when the dust starts getting kicked up. And that's when the investigation starts. And that's when the truth starts coming to people to say, we never would have thought this is under our noses happening in our neighborhood, in our community at the same time. And people look to say, we didn't know. How were we supposed to know? And both of those are valid questions, which means that people, whoever the people are, need to be aware of those who are most vulnerable. And you have to take measures to ensure that they're not being victimized, because they don't have a voice. So, you see that young girl going home, as David alluded to earlier, and she doesn't have anybody looking in. I'm not saying you as a man have to go next door. If you got a daughter her age or daughter within her age, send your daughter over there. Ask your daughter, tell your daughter to ask you these specific questions. That way, everything's above board. Because the last thing you want to be is a man who's looking out for your neighbor's child and be accused of something that is simply untrue. This is why a lot of men don't reach out anymore. And I can't fault them, because society has made it almost impossible for men to be protectors of people in the community. The first thing they think of is, oh, he sent his daughter over there so he could try and do this with the daughter. It's like, nah. I'm just trying to make sure that that the girl doesn't become a victim, or the boy doesn't become a victim. Because it would be easy for him to go over there and speak to the boy and say, hey, where's your mother? Are you here by yourself? You need help with your homework? Have you ate? Who calls and checks up on you? What time is your mother supposed to be home? And if his mother doesn't get home by a certain, let's say he gets home from school at 3:30. He's there till 6. 14, 15. Lights get kicked, because that's the age we were. And it's 6 o'clock and his mother doesn't get there. He hasn't ate dinner. Nobody's there. Who's going to help that young man? Is he going to have to fend for himself? This is why the neighborhood becomes imperative, and as much as our neighborhoods and communities are broken, there has to be a point in time where simple peer-to-peer neighbors start to help, even if it's a little bit of help. A little bit of help beats no help, and so long as that individual knows that if something happens, I can go to Mr. Such and Such's house. He's 3 houses up the street. Give him your phone number. If something happens, you're uncomfortable, call me. Better yet, don't call. Come here. Leave a note for your mother, or I'll call your mother and say, hey, look, your son felt uncomfortable at home. He's at my house until you get back. I'm going to feed him. If you don't get here, I'm going to put him to sleep. But it's got to be somebody that you trust. And if he's reaching out in that manner, there's more and he has kids, that young man, the young woman's age, there's a very good chance that you're not going to have to worry about him in the manner that you would have to worry about somebody else. We talk about these things because we try to get people an out. Not because we're trying to tell you how to raise your kids, but because we understand what society is and what society doesn't offer comparatively speaking to when we were young. When we were younger, we had the neighborhood. Like I mentioned at the top of the show about the father in the neighborhood. We knew we could go to each other's house. That wasn't an issue so long as we wasn't running in and out, leaving the door open, slamming and causing all that fuss. That doesn't exist nowadays. I live in a neighborhood, where there's um, maybe a handful of kids. And little, I mean a handful of kids, like 3 or 4. At the end of my block, there's been an apartment purchased by East Indian family. So I rarely see their kids, and that's cool because they're pretty much a family unit within themselves. So I don't see too many kids. The ones I do see, I see. I don't need to assist them because they're pretty much um, self-sustained in terms of their home. But there's a lot of kids that aren't, and they don't have anyone to turn to. They're out there almost having to do for themselves, and it's a recipe for disaster. And we're going to continue to see this until people start banding together and working things out. And that's all I want. Work things out. Develop a system, to where when your kids need something, you can reach out to somebody. You don't have to pimp your child. You can say, hey, look, I'm in the bind. I need this. And a lot of what this boils down to is people, they're too prideful to admit that they need something. Whether it's food, whether it's a place to do laundry, whether it's somebody to help their kid with schoolwork, they don't want to say, hey, look, I don't know. So the child suffers because the child is the one who's going to fall behind the school. The child's the ones who's going to end up having to go to summer school. And guess what that does to the child? That isolates that child because now that child can't enjoy their summer. They spend their 4 weeks in school to get the information that they should have already got. There's a lot of things out here that are going on, and a lot of people can help each other with, but due to ego and pride, people don't want to work together.
Yeah, and I think that's the big thing, that being able to recognize and being able to identify with community issues and things that could be kind of nullified was so simply just by small communication or people coming together. Because listen, we can't, as parents, as adults, as educators, we can't keep up with the speed of social media. So and that's the thing. And I'll say this, even the challenges of going into a new state-of-the-art building, the structure the way that they build things. When I'm, the day that I was in there, I say, this shit gonna be an issue. It's gonna be an issue. Like when you build the landscape of certain things, when you have the boys' bathroom, and it's built like at an airport or whatever the case is, and you just go the boys and the girls and then the same thing. And nothing, unless you got somebody sitting right there, and with the technology and all that stuff, that's prime example. Oh, ain't nobody out here. I'm about to get a pass. You go to the boys' bathroom, just go to the girls. Anybody in there? You come over here or I come over there. Man, they getting it in. That's what they gonna do. It's so much. But I think the higher powers to be, they don't think about that shit. They don't know because they've been removed from that situation, and they're sitting in their big high-rise chairs and their desk and all that stuff and making decisions, but they're not part of the landscape of, these kids gonna have a ball with this. they're gonna enjoy trying to find all the nooks and crannies in the little spots that they can put in work, and some of them, that's their focus.
Yeah, It, you know, it is dare I say is in that way they're almost diabolical because they're looking for a way to get over. And if they can find it, believe me, it's like people trying to escape from prison. They ain't gonna try it. They ain't gonna try it. And if it's successful, oh, you better believe the rest of the school will know. The rest of the school will know, and the incoming class they're gonna know, and the incoming class they're gonna know. Everybody's gonna know except the faculty. That's how it
Yeah,
goes.
when I was walking around, I was like, "Oh, this shit! Oh, this gonna be this. This is gonna be wild. This is gonna be wild." And of course, the strength is in the numbers. You never have enough faculty, whatever, to compete with the student population.
Yeah.
So, and then you have people. You don't have the soldiers, the OGs that's been there. So you got to deal with all this. Buckle up. So probably, I'm used to working and carrying on, but transitioning to the new school. This is the first summer I ever had off in 30 years.
Oh,
In 30
damn.
years, and
Whew.
so this is something
I,
different for me. And a lot of people, the people I talk to, there's like, take that time, relax, chill, and
yeah.
but it's different for me. So I'm not used to it. I'm used to in the grind. So
Yeah.
I don't know. But I also understand this that I know that my time has come to an end. It's to that point. So I don't know. I don't know how to take it. I don't know how to feel. But it ain't gonna work.
Uses
I'm gonna
man,
be all right.
yeah, well, yeah, as we say, you ain't got no choice but to be all
Say that
right.
again.
So as we say, you ain't got no choice but to be all right.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Shoot, because I got to get back on my diet. I
I'm
was
gonna be
doing well. I was
fine.
down to like 265. Yeah, so having a summer off for me, like I have no idea. I because I work in the hospitality industry, there really is no such thing as an off season, especially in the summer. In the summertime, we balls to the wall. It's busy, and by the time we look up, then we look back down, school's starting up again. So it's just like,
Hmm.
damn, where did the summer go? What did I do this summer? Realize I didn't do anything but work and sleep and eat. So that's why I'm really trying to put time aside now too, because me and my other brothers, we had a fishing trip planned for August, I think. So we headed down to, I think, Ohio somewhere for a weekend or whatever the case is. So and I haven't fished in years. Like the last time I went fishing, I used a bamboo pole. So I'm talking 11 and 12. So, so I'm gonna have to get acclimated with using a rod and all this other stuff, a lure, and it's but I can care less about, and I know they could be there's gonna be contests, there's gonna be dominoes played, they're gonna be drinking, and I might have something to drink. So, but because the oldest male sibling in my family, I think, is 66, 67. And the youngest, of course, is my brother, who's 50 now. So, we're spread out. So it's gonna be kind of cool that we all can get together and just hang out and just not have a care in the world. So I'm really looking forward to it, especially given all the well the losing my mother and our younger sister. It's it's getting to that time, where getting together. You always do this, and I always admire that about how your family always comes together, for trips and things, whether it's a boat trip or whatever the case is, because we're so sparsely spread out and then we're so busy that it's almost difficult to get together. And it seems like the only time we do to get together is when somebody transitions. So, people, reach out, grab your family. It's the old slogan. With I think it was AT&T. Reach out to touch someone. Reach out to touch your family. Get together, even if you got to plan something. Do it.
Yeah, it don't take that much for even if everybody can make it, and if you could get a few people that's available. Like I never realized the value even that cruise did a lot to be able to go there and just that availability to have a time off and spend with family. Because normally when you move and you live in different states, you may have a long weekend or whatever, but the value of that to be with family like 7 days, 7 nights, or whatever the case is. You're waking up, you see each other for breakfast, lunch, excursions. That was powerful. That meant a lot.
Yeah.
I think that changed a lot of things for me in a grand scheme of things, and even shout out to Ronnie O's when we was just there for my aunt's thing. He's like, yo, like we here for a good time, a celebration. We're not here for a funeral.
Yeah.
Like, and to be able to like if you're able to come together during those times and you have the finances and the resources, do it. We shouldn't be subjected to always come together during a funeral.
Yeah.
And I think part of that is the demise of us, whatever, that we always feel like we got to come together at a low point when we can come together at high points and build and grow. So that's the one thing that it taught me. And then shout out to my um, principal at Golden Ring. She always said, "Family first." We do this, but if it's an opportunity to spend time with your family, put family first. And
Yeah.
that's what we have. We have to do a better job of doing that. I know we all get caught up in our busy lives and stuff like that. But when it's an opportunity to celebrate each other, we have to try to push forward and do it, whatever, because also what comes out of this, yeah, I do realize that like our children and all that don't even know how we related. They just be around.
Yeah.
They don't know who's cousins. Oh, I didn't know that they was all brothers and sisters. So it's a major disconnect with the family that they don't even have no idea how people are connected. Let's say.
Nothing like the holidays. I was talking about this movie maybe
Oh,
about a month ago, where the father was terminally ill and he was hiding it from his wife and the rest of the family. And the wife thought he was having an affair and he had an accident. And his daughter in law was in the car and he told her to look in the glove compartment for his medicine. And she read it. He said, please, don't tell anybody. He said, all I want to do is get everybody together for this last holiday because he may not have lived to see anymore. So when they got to the hospital and his oncologist showed up, she said, well, why didn't you tell me? He said, because I didn't want to ruin anything. And I think it's a fantastic movie because it hits on what you're talking about. Because we had the thought process that understandable. We have the thought process that our time is limited. We have the understanding rather that our time is limited. Sure, yeah, we're biological entities, so yes, our time is limited. But we don't know how. We don't live. We don't know if we're gonna live to be 70. We don't know if we're gonna live to be 60. We don't. We don't know when. So um, take that time and enjoy what you can. I'm a cheap movie person. Um, I have no idea what this movie is about tonight, but I'm gonna watch it. It's got one of my favorite actors. I'll let you know what it's about. I got my wings waiting.
you got got your wings what?
I got my
Your
wings
your
waiting.
wings waiting.
Yes, sir. Time to
Okay.
time to feed the person to make him happy. That's one of my because things have just been the last few years have been a kind of a personal grind for me. So I'm got a handle on a couple things. Um, making my way through my world, not necessarily the world, but just my world, because my world is a lot different than the average person's world. I don't have the the responsibility, so I don't have a wife, I don't have kids. I got some home repairs that I need to get done in earnest, but aside from that, I'm doing okay, and that's probably more than a lot of people in this country can say. So I always try and keep that perspective, with with uh, with things in my life. My siblings' children are doing well. Um, I, my house is coming together now that I've gotten a hand on my back and my front lawn. I was able to trim my lilac bush. I thought of because I didn't want to kill it. And I know people probably don't want to listen to this, but these are the things that they make me feel alive. Every time I cut my grass or do something to the house, I stand out on the street and I look. I say, yeah, I'm doing okay. I'm doing okay. Simple pleasures. It's funny. I tell people I really, at my heart, I'm a simple man. It's just don't bother me when football season comes along. And, that's coming up in a couple months. So anybody out there that's got any plans, you already know. Sundays, leave me alone. No, I ain't taking no calls. I ain't taking no texts. Leave me alone. Unless you got some pizza and wings. You invite me over to watch it.
You heard it. So we gonna Herb give a closing comment. We gonna get out of here. And there were more people that came in and participated, but I know certain subjects they ain't trying to hear that. I don't know why. Ain't shit on TV. I don't know where these people at. Ain't nothing popping off in sports world or whatever the case is.
Hockey and basketball are done. So, we're into baseball if you're a baseball fan. Speaking of which, I got to get up to Toronto, man. They redid that stadium. That place looks absolutely gorgeous. And their new jerseys, I'm liking them shits. I really am. But that's baseball. That's sports, and people ain't into sports like that. But no, man.
And for baseball,
go ahead.
No, for baseball, for me, I'll follow it, but for baseball, for me, like September, October, when they get into the heat of the battle, then I'm all into it. I'm watching whole games and all that. I'll read the stats throughout, but I just baseball season's a long grind, but that shit go by fast too.
Yeah. Just for closing statements, people. Your kids are your kids. You are the first, second, and last in their line of education and defense. Now, that doesn't mean you can't get some allies on your side, but you have to be open to asking. Do not expect somebody to come to your aid and your kids' aid if you haven't told them what you need. And don't wait till a crisis situation arises. Be preemptive in getting your child the resources they need before they need them. I know it doesn't make any sense. And I'll put it to you like this. when your kid goes back to school from the fall, you don't wait the day out to do school shopping. You do that a month or two in advance. Treat your child's physical, mental, and physiological well being in the same way. This is why I talked about the concentric circles. You know you're going to have a daughter who's probably going to start entering into puberty soon. Don't wait till she has her first cycle to teach her what to expect. Be preemptive and telling her, say, hey, look, you're getting to the age where your body's going to do this. You're getting to the point where your body's going to do this. If you're a young woman and you have a son and you don't understand everything that's going to happen, find a trusted male individual and have him sit down and go through this with your son. Teach them. Don't wait. Get ahead of the ball. Be preemptive. And with that, as always, are you trying to put a brick into the wall of conversation, or are you trying to take one out? As always, growth and understanding occurs in the gray area. Godspeed. See you next time.
All right. And for me, closing comments. Like I always say, to any of these subjects, there's a lot of layers to it all. You just got to be willing to have these conversations. Some people are not willing to have it, and that's fine. We're here. I can't say every Monday night, but for the most part, shit, if it's 52 Monday nights, probably about 40 of them, 42, 43, 44, 45, we here. It's none of us have the manual, or I'll never, and I'll always say this, I'm not the expert to any of this, but I am willing to have dialogue to grow and learn from different people about different perspectives. And I think that's where we need to be at, to have the ability to listen to others and not form judgment or figure our way is always the right way, because it's not. We all can learn and grow from each other, and that's what it's about. And I know, again, like I said it the last time, I'm probably about a 9,900 posts behind in the counselor's corner, but you know what? I'll get to those posts when I get to it. I'd rather for y'all to come on here. That's what I'd rather for y'all to do. Show face, talk, give your concerns. Because we do too much hiding. We some scary ass people. And we don't want to we want to step it up to the plate, and we just want to keep hiding. But it ain't the time to be hiding. It's the time to get stuff out. Because again, we're on a short leash. And when you get to your 40s and 50s, you got to start thinking like, shit, nothing's promised. See, when you're in your teenager, 20 years old, you still think you're invincible, that nothing can happen unless you living in that world that you could get shot. But if you just live a day-to-day life and you just working, you figure you're okay. We're getting to that point that they're like, damn, he had a heart attack. What? Like, he looked healthy. You see athletes passing away. And people that appear to be healthy and all that stuff, they're not making it. So it's a grave concern now to kind of try to come together, make stuff right, and live life. So even with this subject tonight, just got to be mindful. You got to inform kids on what's going on, and we got to stay locked in to wherever it is. If not, they're going to be lost because If you're a working parent that works one job, work overtime, you can't keep up with the speed of technology. You can't keep up with that. They got too much information in their hands. We didn't have it like that. So the only thing you could do is you have to take time to kind of slow down and try to monitor what's going on in their world. And you have to be consistent. Because once they realize you're not consistent, you're as a lame duck. And it's different in this generation. But we ain't done with this conversation. Y'all know how it goes. For the people who missed out, who came in, chimed in, y'all will see the shorts, the reels, and I'm sure those little snapshots of what happened will get y'all going to make y'all want to participate. But you got to come in. You got to lock in. You got to lock in on something. We like to lock in on things that are people are already rich and they getting like this is like lower surface conversations that we could have on Monday nights for a couple hours that we can build and that can impact our communities or our families that's close and we could touch and feel each other. But I'll digress and move forward. And thanks for the people that chimed in. Thanks for the people that's going to view it later. And everybody, stay safe, stay cool. And remember, if your family got something going down, don't let grudges hold you from not attending. You ain't mad at the whole family. Go there, connect. And hopefully somebody can bring everything together because we all we got. And we got to keep loving on each other and keep supporting each other. And with that said, I'm out. On to the next one. Peace.
All right, people, be safe.
All right.